All right, guys. So I just want to cap how I would, as a general manager or a scout, front office advisor, um, fix the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks have been my team for a long time now, predating Trey Young, probably since the '61 season with Mike Budenholzer. I've been a steady fan of the organization. So, but nevertheless, this is my plan to fix the Atlanta Hawks after a disappointing season. So the first thing that I would do is I would um, really look at the perimeter. The perimeter is where the Hawks had a lot of issues. Defensively, there was a lot of problems. Letting letting teams, putting up no resistance on the perimeter as far as getting defensive stops, blow bys, etc. Constantly beat off the dribble. A lot of it had to do, in my opinion, with schemes, but some of it had to do with personnel as well. As Kevin Herter and Bogdanovich and Trey Young are just not ideal kind of first level defenders that you would want ideally on the perimeter. And so that's primarily where I'm looking to fix it. And what I would do is I would trade Bogdan Bogdanovich, see if I can flip him to Indiana for Malcolm Brogdon, and maybe have to throw in a pick, maybe a second round pick or a future first, protected, heavily protected, because those two players are similar in the sense of both of them can score. Both of them could get hot and score. Both of them could be kind of secondary ball handlers. Um, Brogdon is a good defensive player. Bogdanovich is a better shooter and a better offensive player than Malcolm Brogdon. So where Bogdanovich's strength is, offense, Brogdon's strength is defense. And he still brings enough scoring where it kind of offset. His defense is so strong, so much better than Bogdanovich's. It offsets an issue that you would have with the Hawks being such a prolific offense. And then, so that's one fix. Um, you know, with so many rumors and so many chatter about the team willing to trade John Collins, I want to go on record and say I would not want to trade John Collins. I think John Collins is an excellent um, second or tertiary scorer on a championship team. You just look at the finals. You look at a Jordan Poole or Andrew Wiggins. Kind of that third scorer. They both I think John Collins can certainly fill that role that both of those two players filled for the Golden State Warriors. If given the opportunity, if given the requisite plays ran for him, if they made a concerted effort to get him the ball and his sweet spots, I think you would see him produce even at a higher clip than what he's doing now. But having said that, I am resigned to the fact that we're probably going to that the Hawks are probably going to move on from um, John Collins. So in that vein, what I would try to do instead of trying to move up in the draft, I would see if I could package him along with Clint Capella. Clint Capella is a serviceable center. He's still a good center. I don't want to diminish him. He's still a good center, but he's not what we need at this time. Onyeka Okongwu is really coming into his own. He has a lot of good games last year against premium talent. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Karl Anthony Towns, Embiid. He had a good game versus Embiid. So he's a former lottery pick, a top number 6 pick overall. So he's really starting to come onto his own. So giving him that runway this summer of adding bulk and adding a jump shot to his game and really getting after the offense and defensive boards more relentlessly will give him what he needs to kind of unseat Capella from that starting position. And then you could fill the backup center position in free agency or in the second round of the draft that I'll touch on in a second. So one of the moves that I would consider making is John Collins and Clint Capella for a package of OG Anunoby and maybe Kim Birch from the Toronto Raptors. That deal will give you toughness that you're looking for. It will give you a starting shooting guard, starting small forward with someone with Anunoby's defensive acumen and still growing offensive abilities. That would afford you the opportunity to slide DeAndre Hunter to the 4, which I think is a better position for him at the NBA level is a 4. Um, that's a lot of what he played in college at Virginia, where he was an All-American and the nation's best defender and tournament MVP. And I also think that will lessen the degree to which he's hurt. A lot of his injuries, I think, come with the fact that he's guarding on the perimeter. He's constantly guarding other teams' best players, premier athletes, night after night after night. And we all know DeAndre, he's a good defender, but he's not a great defender. And so having to exert a lot of energy staying in front of premier athletes night after night after night, I think is where a lot of his injuries come from. Just a personal opinion that I have about his injury history. And so I think sliding him over to the 4 will give the Hawks a premier stopper on both sides of the perimeter. You got DeAndre Hunter on one side, you got Anunoby on another side, and then you got Oyeka at the rim as a shot blocker deterrent. So then and if you add in Brogdon, or I'll touch on the draft in a second, you add in a good defensive player in the draft, then you got 4 guys who are excellent defenders, 4 guys who can switch, or 3 guys who can switch, maybe possibly a 4 we'll touch on in a second. But you got 4 guys around Trey who are very good to excellent defenders, 4 guys who can switch, 4 guys who can really hide Trey really well. And so, a part of that is also schematic as well. You have to put Trey in the best position to succeed, and that means not continuously switching as much as the Hawks switch. They switch probably, one of the most switchable teams in the league. And if you have the personnel for that, that's fine. But in this instance, currently constructed, they don't. So you don't want to continuously switch everything because it puts really bad defenders on really good offensive players, and the possession is almost over, when it starts. And so going on to the draft, so this draft is not considered a great draft, but I do think there's a lot of good players, more so than what the media would allow you to believe. So, particularly in the Hawks range at 16, in that proposed fix with the Toronto Raptors, you would be keeping your 16th overall pick because you're including Collins and Capella. You also wouldn't want to add in any picks this year, possibly next year, because, as you continue to grow your core, You don't want to continuously add rookies every single season. You want to kind of put a gap year there, if you could, to allow um, Jalen Johnson and some of and your rookie this year to develop, and you're not constantly moving on to the next new um, person. So at 16, there's a couple of good guys in the draft that if I was to trade up in this draft, I would. I like Johnny Davis a lot. I think Johnny Davis would give the Hawks an element they don't currently have. He averaged about 20 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, 2 assists at Wisconsin. And while his efficiency numbers wasn't where ideally you would want them to be, I'm a big efficiency person. I think efficiency is really important because it it allows you to play in a lot of different environments. If you have a high, if you're efficient, if you have a high usage rate, but your efficiency rate is not as good, then that kind of means you're ball dominant, or you're a volume scorer, and that kind of limits where you can go because you're going to need a lot of attempts to get your points. And so that's one of the one of, if maybe the ball handling as well. Very little concerns with Davis. I really like his defense. I like his switchability on the 1 and 2, possibly even 3. I like the fact that he scores in the mid range. It would bring a different type of flavor to the Hawks offense, and it would allow them to better preserve leads because when the other team is coming back or going on a run, you can throw it to somebody in the post or at the elbow, and get a know they're getting to the foul line, or know that they're scoring, and that really helps not only preserve a lead and milk a lead, but it also stops another team's momentum as well. And I think the secondary ball handling, secondary ball playmaking, and the um, passing will grow once you take down the scoring burden and him guarding the opposing team's best offensive player. Once you lessen that burden, I think that will allow him to be even more efficient and more productive on offense. So if I'm trading, I'm ideally not trading up in the draft, but if I am trading up in the draft, then Johnny Davis would be my ideal target. Um, some of the other guys in that range, I do like Ben Matherin a lot. I worry about Ben's defense, particularly as it pertains to the Hawks, because it's such importance on that player that they select being a good defender, but also being a good scorer as well. Because the Hawks need a good perimeter defender, but they also need that second guy. They need that second scorer, and ideally, it would come from the perimeter because they have the ball a lot and they're not dependent on being fed. They can create, and if the defense shifts over to them, they have the ability to be that secondary off-ball creator, where they can get other guys shots in their pocket, where someone like maybe Collins isn't as adept at doing, those cross-court passes, those right-hand, left-hand passes, that a good, secondary perimeter player could do with ease, that maybe traditional post player or power forward doesn't have that kind of innate skill to do. So Johnny Davis, if I'm trading up in the draft, if I'm not trading up in the draft, and I'm staying at 16, another guy that I like a lot, or two guys that I like a lot in that range, um, Malachi Brenham from Ohio State. He was Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Um, really came on strong in conference play, averaged about 20 points a game in conference play. Very dynamic score. Um, has to get better on defense. I think he will. Um, a very efficient scorer. and that's what I like about him. Is his efficiency. He shot, 46% from the field, and 41% from three, and over 80% from the free throw line. So that's really good efficiency for a freshman at a Power Five school, because a lot of times it takes players, especially someone like Brenham, who was, a high recruit, coming in. Typically, it takes them a while to adjust, maybe an entire freshman season, unless they're a bona fide 5-star top five recruit. It takes them a while to adjust to the physicality and the speed of college, and not being the number one guy on the team that can take all the shots and don't have to worry about their efficiency numbers. But what we saw with Brenham is, he was able to get to his spots. He was able to be efficient and be, um, you know, less ball dominant than what you see out of somebody, let's say, like a Johnny Davis or, a Jayton Ivy, who's an excellent player, phenomenal player, but is more ball dominant. And when you look at a team like the Hawks, with Trey, they don't need somebody that's ball dominant. They need somebody who can pass, who has very good secondary ball creation ability, but also can score and score efficiently. Because Trey's going to take his shots, and he needs the ball in his hands, and that's fine. But you want a player who can get you, between 15 and 20 points a game next to him, who don't who does ideally who doesn't need 20 25 shots, who can just plug and play. And I can plug and play this dude right next to Trey, right in their offense. And I know it's much more isolation heavy than, more than other off than your Golden State Warriors or your Toronto Raptors of the league. The Hawks offense is much more isolation heavy. It's much more about individual creation ability, than other offenses in the league. And so that being the case, you want a guy who can get to his spots quickly, who doesn't need to dribble the air out the ball to get where they need to get to. But, what the Hawks should be looking for, is a guy who can create shots for others, that can lessen the burden on Trey, but can also have that aggression to score when they need to score. And it's not like we're pulling teeth to get you to shoot, or we're pulling teeth to get you to score. You have that, inner fire to score, but you also can find others, relatively easy. And I think Brenham can certainly grow into that secondary creation role. He can go right, he can go left. He has a lot of the soft skills that you look for, in a on the perimeter, for a really good player. I think he was just tapping the surface of what he could do. It would not surprise me at all, if he went to the right team in the right situation, and he improved his defense so he could stay on the floor if he wasn't a 15 plus point, scorer his rookie season in the NBA. I think he's going to be a really good pro, because he scores so efficiently. His numbers, I think, once he eliminates some of the mid-range shots from his game, and he takes a couple step back, take a couple steps back at the free throw line. I mean, at the 3-point line, and really, get those 3-pointers up. But he can also cross a guy over and get to the rim and dunk on a guy, like he did, earlier in the year against Michigan State. So, I'm really high on, Brenham. I think he's going to be a really good player. And then, also staying at 16, for the Hawks, I'm looking at a guy like, Jalen Williams from St. Clair. The ball handling, the passing, the shooting. He's very dynamic athlete from a numbers perspective, measurably 7'2" wingspan, 6'7". very dynamic with the ball in his hands. Can go right, can go left, can finish right, can finish left. The shooting numbers are what you want: plus 40%, plus 80% from the free throw line. Career 35% 3-point shooter, has that creation breakdown ability that you really would crave, particularly with the Hawks, with the shooting that they have. A guy who can break down the defense outside of Trey, where you can run Trey off screens, you can run him off pin downs, you can run him off of flares, you can run, back cuts, split cuts, different. You can be more creative on offense with another guy who can pass the ball, but also has the threat of scoring. That's why I have kind of backed away from someone like Dyson Daniel, who I like, but isn't offensive enough to really command a team's attention. For somebody like the Hawks, you want a guy who can move the ball, who's a very good passer, but they have to have the threat of scoring. They have to be able to score because only scoring is really going to get it the attention off of Trey in a playoff situation or a hyper trapping and blitzing situation. Only a guy who I can flip the ball to and score for himself, but also create for others, is really what you need to get the attention off of Trey. I would even go as far as, maybe this guy he's a good secondary creator, but maybe not a great secondary creator, because you can design an offense and schemes to get the ball moving, where you don't necessarily need a quote unquote point guard or a quote unquote shoot, a primary facilitating player. You can kind of fill that in with schemes. You can fill that in with having a assist quota per game. You can fill that in with different things, different metrics, where you don't necessarily need a primary decision maker making all the passes and making all the decisions on what needs to happen per possession. But I really like Jalen Williams a lot. I see a lot of Jalen Brown in this game, with handles, because we saw Jalen kind of struggle with that a little bit in the finals. Well, mostly throughout the conference finals and NBA finals. But I think when you look at somebody like Jalen Williams, he has that creation ability. He has to handle. He gets low. Um, he has that low dribble. He has what you look for. He has the coordination, the body control. He has the hips. He can get low. He has what you're looking for. As he can go right, he can go left. He got the touch shot. He got the mid range. He got the three. He got the step back. He has what you look for when you're looking for a really good skilled individual creator. And then he has the passing. I mean, that really pops when you look at his game. You look at the right hand passes, left hand passes, between the legs, the nutmegs, the wraparound passes, the skip passes. You know, so I think he's, ideally, if you're going to stay at 16 and you're not going to trade up, he's somebody who I think can really start to turn the Hawks into more of a passing friendly team. You look at the assists per game, the screens per game is really low on ball screens, or off ball screens rather, and the assists per game, two metrics that all successful teams lead the league in. When you look at advanced statistics, Atlanta is very low in both of those categories. So getting somebody like a Jalen Williams who can really move the ball and can really hit guys in their pocket, very he's not, obviously, he's not on Trey's level with that. Trey, is genius level when it comes to that type of stuff. But Williams is, I think, is a very good constellation guy or secondary guy who can really, once you reverse that ball on the backside or secondary side, can really create and, can hit guys in their pocket. Or if you keep Collins, can hit them for the alley oops, or hit Kevin Herter in the shooting pocket and really progress the offense to the next level that we need to see it for this team to really see the best version of itself. And defensively, I think he's a really good defender. I think he could be even better on the pro level when he's not initiating the offense 80 something times a game and guarding the other team's best defender, So I think if you can move Capella and a pick, or Capella and Collins for a Ananobi, and a Birch that gives you the toughness that you're looking for, or even Ananobi and Gary Trent Jr. that gives you the defense and the shooting, and then Williams can kind of grow into his role and progress over time into taking over eventually the lead shooting guard position for the team. I would move Kevin Herter to the bench. I would move him Actually, I would move Kevin Herter to a small forward position, and I would, move him to the bench as a small forward. I think having Herter ability to shoot, stretch the floor, but also take a dude off the dribble on a closeout as a backup three is real, or as a 7 man, 6 man, 7 man off the bench. When I look at a player, I'm looking at the playoffs. I'm looking, can I visualize this? Can I visualize this guy in the playoffs situation? Can I visualize this guy in the finals? You look at a guy like Kevin Herter, he fits on Golden State or Boston. His shooting, his secondary playmaking, his occasional, defensive, toughness. All that blended together, on a team like Golden State or a team like Boston, I think you would see the best version of him. So bringing him in off the bench, getting a more defensive minded, but also offensive creation ability shooting guard next to Trey, I think is the number one priority. This draft and this offseason. So that's the first round. Moving into the second round, I'm looking at a guy in the second round. Ideally you would get off Capella, you would move Oyeka Okonwu into that starting center position, and then in the second round, I'm looking at possibly a John Brown, I'm John Butler. I'm sorry, from Florida State. The 7 foot forward center that is a very good shooter, very good ball handler, can has some passing ability, but really fits the modern NBA when you talk about being able to switch on defense, being able to step out and shoot the three. He has to get better as a rebounder, but particularly a defensive rebounder. But I think that'll come as he adds on strength and, puts in an NBA nutrition program, a dietary program, become stronger, get that one-on-one attention that you can get at the NBA level. And so I think he's just scratching the surface with what he can do. Or a Travion Williams as well, from Purdue. I think show more what he can do at the combine, and you look at his pro day than what he showed at Purdue. It's a very good passer, very good rebounder, has some post moves. Changes a little bit of the flavor for the team coming off the bench than what they've had. Because if you look at the Hawks, they're mostly a perimeter team. So ideally, you want to keep a lot of that perimeter game, but you also want to mix in the mid range and the low post to kind of balance it out, balance out the team, balance out the roster. So those two guys in the second round are two guys that I really like. And so, but so to recap, if I'm trading up in the draft, I'm trading up for Johnny Davis. That could include Capella. that can include John Collins. I'm open to either. And then, like I said, I would also Toronto needs a starting center, and ideally they will want an experienced starting center, someone that they can kind of plug and play. And Atlanta needs a better, more dependable wing player, ideally multiple wing players who are very good defenders but can score and secondary play make if needed to in a pinch, on a closeout or, facing a team, Trey facing a trap or a double team, a secondary guy who can, punish a closeout or can whip a pass, to a shooter in their pocket, shooting pocket. So that's why I would prioritize Anunoby, trying to get OG Anunoby from the Toronto Raptors. I think for the right price, he can be had, and I think you slide Hunter to you get off Collins, you slide Hunter to the 4, you put Anunoby at the 3, you get somebody like a Jalen Williams in the draft, uh, or even if you want to trade Bogdanovich and you flip him for Malcolm Brogdon, now you got 4+ defenders, 4 guys who can switch, 4 guys who can stay in front of their man, and you make the defense significantly better while the offense might dip a little bit with Trey Young, with his passing, with his offensive genius ability. The offense to me is always going to be, in the top 10 in the league, because of his ability, his gravity, his passing, his stretching the floor, with his logo threes, etc. I think when you reverse that ball or you spin that ball, and you get other guys on the court who can be aggressive and attack the rim more consistently, get to the free throw line, it makes the game, it balances the game, but it also simplifies it because, maybe you don't need a super complex system, but you can incorporate motion and ball movement and back cuts into your offense. And this guy has the ability to break down a defense and create his own shot, or break down a defense and create shot for others, and be able to have the ability and dexterity with either hand to hit the guy in their pocket where they're able to shoot or able to break down the defense a second time or a third time rather, and then you score off of that, because it's very rare at any level to get a defense to rotate 3 times, in a single possession. And so that's how I would attack it in the draft and do the trade market. And then when it comes to free agency, I thought last year, the Hawks, I felt, Jamichael Green rather, from the Chicago Bulls. I thought he was a good ad. The team could have added. I think he's a good defender. He's a good rebounder. He's tough. He's physical, and that's really what the Hawks need. They need more guys who are tough, who are physical, who will call other guys out when they make mistakes on defense, or let a guy blow by and score. And you need that. You need a guy who's respected, who the other teammates know that they don't have a hitting agenda. They're not about their numbers, or they're not about their statistics. They just want the team to be successful. They want the team to win, and they're doing whatever they need to do to put the team in the best position as possible. So, you look at a trade this past year at the trade deadline. You look at somebody like, a Norman Powell, who got traded at the trade deadline, who was a champion, is still, relatively in their prime, who, you know, is a good defender, but is an excellent shot maker as well, and somebody that can hold guys accountable, and is not this old grizzly veteran who can also get out there on the court and actually play, but will hold guys accountable. Will demand excellence from his coworkers. And so you look at somebody like a OG Ananobi. I think that's why it's key that you prioritize a player of his stature, not just because of his defense, not just because of his switchability, but also he's a champion. He, people don't mess with him. They know that he's about his business, and he can bring that level of grit and fire to the team that is missing. And so the team doesn't need a lot. They just need concerted upgrades at a few key positions. You add in a good defender on the perimeter, but a scorer on the perimeter that can also play make for others. You add in off the bench a tough perimeter defender to put next to Herder, who's a good shooter, who is a physical force or can be, a physical force. You look at somebody like a Josh Okogie or, like I said, Jermichael Green or Grant Williams or, a player like that, who is tough, who is physical, who meets the, who can meet the attack at the inflection point at the top of the key and really get a stop when you need it. To preserve the starters from coming back into the game on a key run in the third quarter or at the top of the fourth quarter. So it's just the little things that they need to tweak and adjust. But first and foremost, you have to get a shooting guard who can ideally break down the defense, who's a good defender, but can break down the defense, can find others, but can also score the basketball. You know, that's primarily number one. Number two is allowing Onyeka to really shine and finding the opportunity to get him more minutes out on the court. Same thing with Jalen Johnson. He's a very good passer. He's a very good dribbler. He can make those secondary creation opportunities for others and himself if given the opportunity. And so, lastly, I'll touch on the coaching and with McMillan. We saw yesterday that Chris Gent left the organization and went over to the um, Los Angeles Lakers. I think that this is a perfect opportunity for the Hawks to get innovative and get creative as a coaching staff, as a team, offensively. You know, you look at the direction of how the team is going from the front office perspective. I love what Travis and Landry Field, Travis Slink and Landry Fields are doing. Their direction of the team. You know, it's it's modern NBA. It's what you want from as a fan base, as someone who wants to be a general manager, who wants to work in scouting. I see their vision, I see what they're doing, and I agree with it 100%. But I also see that you have a coach doesn't who's not on the same sheet of music as them. You have a coach who doesn't see the game the same way, and that's going to be a problem, you know, because the when you look at the players that I'm talking about going after, or you talk about the players that's already on the roster, you're talking about shooting, you're talking about playmaking, you're talking about creation, breakdown ability, you're talking about having an offense that really puts these guys in their best situation. And that's a more motion style movement offense. You know, you look at the Hawks, like I said, you look at the number of off ball screens, you look at the number of back cuts, you look at the number of just you look at a scoring chart. Outside of the alley oops, you look at the number of points scored 5 feet or less. You look at some of the advanced metrics and statistics. It's very it's not ideal today in today's modern NBA. They take too many long 2 pointers and not enough threes. They take way too many um, you know 2 pointers than they need to. So they need to prioritize the 3 point shot and finishing at the rim. But if you could throw in a mid range opportunity or opportunities, that's fine. But you really need to prioritize maybe setting up at the mid range to run your offense, but prioritizing scoring at the rim in a 3 point shot more so than scoring in the mid range. And so, somebody, like I said, somebody like Malachi Branham or Jalen Williams or even Johnny Davis, I think you can expand Johnny Davis's um, ability out to the 3 point line, but also, when you're scoring in the paint, when you're scoring 2 pointers, you want them to be close to the rim to allow Onyeka and your big men to capitalize on your misses or to, capitalize on your rebounding, if the shot goes off, if the shot is a missed shot. So a lot of long twos puts the defense in a bad, um, puts the offense in a bad position as it comes to offensive rebounding. So because long shots tend to be long rebounds. So, um, but schematically, offensively, defensively as well. This opportunity this offseason for the Hawks to upgrade their coaching staff, I think, is imperative. Um, Nate McMillan has to grow with the times. He has to get more advanced in his schemes. He has to become more modern and adaptable. The Hawks with their shooters and Trey Young's passing, they should be at the top of the league in screens. They should be at the top of the league in back cuts. They should be at the top of the league in um, hockey assists. Although all that movement based offense, they should be at the top of the league, but they're at the bottom of the league in all those metrics. And for Nate to be successful in this role with this team, he's going to have to, and if he's not good at it, he's going to have to go get an assistant coach or an assistant coaches who are good at designing offense and defense, offensive set. Well, I'm talking about offense right now, but offensive sets where it prioritizes more movement, more split cuts, more back cuts, more Iverson cuts, more, for people who are not, basketball junkies like myself, it's just, um, I'm just describing a offense that is not necessarily Golden State level, maybe more Jazz level in the late 90s, early 2000s, or, just the offense that has a college style offense in a way. Just something with more movement, something that doesn't die after the first pass, or after the pick and roll. You have to advance, you have to get more sophisticated in your offensive sets for the simple fact of, even if you want Trey Young to dominate the ball and you want to put the ball in your best player hand and let him create and do whatever he does, you still at least want the deception or the decoy, so the opposing team has to think a little bit before they trap Trey or they double team him. That's why also, like I said, it's important to get a secondary creator, but also someone who the defense respects on the opposite side of Trey next to him in the backcourt. And then defensively, they have to become better individual defenders, but that also, like I said, goes with upgrading the roster, getting a stronger point of attack defender at the two guard, at the three, and then you got Hunter, who's an excellent defender or a very good defender. Who, if he could stay healthy, I think he'll be really recognized as an excellent defender. And then Oyeka, once he gets his opportunity and plays more significant minutes, will also be, I think, garnered as an excellent potential All NBA defender. So getting that's four plus defenders. In this case, with Williams or Brenham or even John Davis, you got five guys on the court who can all pass, shoot, and dribble. Who has length, got the wingspan, got the ability to create, but also will. I think you can be more creative and innovative on offense and run more. Back cuts and run more flare screens and split cuts into the pick and roll. I understand that, Trae Young is a great pick and roll player, genius level IQ in the pick and roll, but that doesn't mean that's all you have to run. You can run other schemes, other actions, incorporating the pick and roll or the side pick and roll in that primary action to get to shift the defense or get your guys in space where they can create and look for others. And so those are some of the key tenets that I think the Hawks should consider this summer. I think if you just target those four things, you target the upgrade in schematics and more motion based offense. You upgrade the shooting guard position. You get a respectable primary score on next to Trae Young. You get a excellent prime perimeter defender at the three. You move Hunter to the four, and then you got Oyeka at the five, who's also an excellent defender, who's also a very good shot blocker, who can grow into his role and develop into his role. And I think like I said, you add in a secondary creator off the bench as a backup point guard to Trey, or you keep DeLon right, but you have more movement in the offense. You do those four things: upgrade schematics, creator and score at the two guard, excellent defender at the three, and you move Hunter to the four. You do those four things, I think the Hawks will take off and be back where they believe they should be and where I think they have the chance of being a top three seed in the Eastern Conference. And so I'll come on closer, a little bit closer to the draft, and I'll break down individually, those three guys' game, that being Johnny Davis, Malachi Brenham, and Jalen Williams, and how each one fits, particularly into the Hawks team, and how they'll fit next to Trey. So I would encourage, any feedback or any comments in the comment section. If this somehow gets enough views and it makes it to the Hawks, I am open and available for a potential front office role, maybe as a scout or, just being around basketball. I love basketball. I love, getting into the weeds and, talking high level X's and O's, or just, breaking down college tape, and who I think is a good player and who can contribute at the next level. Nevertheless, leave any comments to this stream at the bottom, and I look forward to engaging with feedback.